All right, let's get started. Hopefully everyone else will be joining up in due course, but we'll get ourselves kicked off. So welcome everyone to the second iteration of the Channel Islands User Group this year. It's 2020.4. Thank you one and all for spending your precious time with us this afternoon just to go through our Ultrix User Group. Your attendance really is appreciated. Thanks for joining up. Let's take a look, shall we, at our user group team with us today. I've got so much company with me today, so not just myself and Sean, as it has been typically. We've got Dan Hare with us, the founder of Continuum. Of course, we've got the man, the myth himself, Sean Mystery. He's going to be talking us through the 2020.4 updates. We've got Chris Scherneman joining us all the way from the United States. So he's the user groups coordinator at Ultrix. He's going to be running us through some of the latest updates in the Ultrix community. And we've got a very special honoured guest with us today. It's Sam Lompriere from the government of Jersey. So he's going to be walking us through his journey with Ultrix and some of the really awesome stuff he's been building. So let's get into it. If you have been sat there wondering whether you can get yourself up on that user groups team and you've been begging to speak, then please do get in contact with inquiries at continuum.je if you'd love to share any of your interesting Ultrix use cases, Ultrix stories, how you got started, or you just want to be part of the team. Please do reach out. It'll be a pleasure to have you on board. So let's take a look at our agenda, shall we? We've got Chris coming on in. He's going to give us an Ultrix community intro and update. So thank you to Chris. Then we're going to pass over to Dan Hare. He's got a little bit of a show and tell for us today. He's going to be telling us a really nice, nifty way to be doing reconciliations with Ultrix. We've got the 2020.4 update coming out, and Sean's going to be running us through all the latest new features and patch notes for that, so you're up to date. And so we have got Sam Lompriere here from the government of Jersey. He's going to be showing us all that sort of all these cool use cases he's been building out with Ultrix to do with COVID-19 response here in Jersey. Some really interesting stuff there. And then we're going to have a 5-minute tool mastery session. So this is something I started last time. I thought it was quite a nifty introduction to the user group where we can kind of learn a new tool every user group. But this time, what we're going to do is we're going to allow you, the audience, to decide which tool you'd like to learn in this session. Shall it be the dynamic rename tool, or shall it be the blocking tool done? I'm going to allow you guys to choose. So you should, in just a second, see coming up on your screen a poll. This poll should be present throughout the entire presentation. We're going to ask if you can kindly select the preference, your preference on the tool that you'd like to see demonstrated at the end. I've got a demo prepared for both. We'll just take a look at the poll results at the end, and that will dictate what demonstration we have. So without further ado, what I'm going to do is hand over to Chris. He's the Ultrix user groups coordinator from the United States. He's going to be talking us through some of those community updates. So over to you, Chris.
Talking on mute there for a second, of course. Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. Ben, Dan, Jackie, this is awesome joining the a user group meeting and actually talking. So this is really cool. I usually run the backside of things with these group meetings, but this is awesome. So let's jump right into some of the updates we have for you guys in the Ultrix community. First off, with the safety of everyone in mind and the uncertainty of really what lies ahead during this time, Ultrix has proactively chosen to cancel the upcoming ANALYTIC in January. It's now going to be rescheduled in Dallas, June 7th through the 10th, 2021. Any current registrations any of the current registrations are actually going to be automatically transferred to the Dallas event. But if you'd like a refund, go ahead and make sure to do that before August 1st and send an email to analyticon@ultrix.com. Next up, we have the new industry discussions forum on the Ultrix community. You guys may have previously seen these as the industry user groups. We've actually put all of those user groups into one area, which is awesome because now we're breaking down those silos, being able to put a lot of those use cases, a lot of that information in one area for everyone to quickly find. So this is really going to be your all in one space to take a look at the industry-related use cases, stories, and even learning sessions. So please join in, subscribe to the page to keep up to date with everything that's going on. Lately, we've been working on fireside chats, which are these 10 to 12-minute series where we have top contributors of the community like yourselves joining in to talk about really anything you're interested in that's industry data related. So if you guys are interested in joining in, please feel free to reach out to me on the community at Chris S. Another update to the community is the Alteryx Data Science Portal. This is everything you love about the Alteryx community, but tuned specifically for data science, both current and aspiring. So you'll be able to find all the great data science content we have to offer across our academy, blogs, the podcast, our discussions, and more, all in one place. So be sure to visit alteryx.com/data science. And as always, please let the community know what you think. And of course, we're always talking about weekly challenges. So please, if you have any weekly challenge ideas, go ahead and submit that to academy@alteryx.com. These are really a great way to expand your knowledge of what Designer can do. And we have new challenges uploaded every Monday. Last but not least, in the community updates, help Mr. and Mrs. Claus streamline and optimize the operations of the business. They need help from the Alteryx community to propose analytic apps and use cases that help get the workshop back on track. So everyone has up until December 31st. So once the contest closes, a judging panel will review all submissions to select our winners who have the opportunity to choose from a list of charities to receive a donation in their name. So you're not only helping Mrs. Claus and Mr. Claus, but you'll be assisting actual human beings that need it. So the organizations that will be making donations to are OZ Harvest and Integrate Health. So again, you have until December 31st to go ahead and submit your work. So we're definitely looking forward to seeing all of that and hopefully being able to name a winner at the end of the year.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I'm going to get myself involved in that Santalyticon, Santalytics 2020. Certainly sounds like a bit of fun. But next up, what we've got is a show and tell of some Alteryx reconciliations. We've got Dan Hare with me here today. He's in the same room, so I'm going to have to make sure I mute my microphone whilst he's presenting. I'm going to hand over to him. He's got a small demonstration in Alteryx with some reconciliations. So over to Dan. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Appreciate that. Okay, cool. Hi, everybody. You should thanks, Ben, and thanks, Chris, for the introductions. You should count yourselves lucky. This was going to be about CRS FATCA and other regulatory reporting use cases, and very of its moment, all of those country tax authorities are going to have to get their money back somehow, right? However, that's now been deferred because I didn't realize Chris was going to do such a brilliant job of a trail. You really want to put this in your diary because there's nothing else to do in January, right? So on the 21st of January, I'm actually going to be the guest for a webinar for CRS FATCA aimed at the offshore jurisdictions. Trailing into that, I'll be talking with Karen from Indeed, the financial services district community, about that in some fireside chats. So there's going to be quite a lot of content coming in like that. So hopefully you can see my screen with two extremely complicated spreadsheets standing in for System A and System B. Now, I actually did a demo like this just the other day for a client who said we've got client data in one system, client data in another, and no way of actually joining them together because one system's got one set of references, The other one's got a different set of references, but they're trying to do a reconciliation between these two views of the world. Before I do that, sorry, I'll just jump straight in there. I wanted to say also thanks everyone for our winning Partner of the Year this year. First of all, yeah, the team put in a great effort. All of our clients who stuck with us all this time, thank you so much. And also Alteryx, who've given us so much support. I thought I'd leave this surfboard here because I've been on so many COVID related Zoom calls where people accidentally leave their trophies behind their head. So I thought I'd just be blatant about it for once. And particularly from Sean, from Alteryx, I got to call out Sean, who's on after me. So I daren't say anything nasty about him. But he was over here so much helping us in Jersey and Guernsey. At one point, he couldn't come again because he'd have been tax resident. So that's not true, I should point out. But anyway, Sean, look forward to hearing from you in a second. So we've got these two spreadsheets that represent these systems, but we want to reconcile them. And you can see there's some subtle differences here. But first of all, we need to know how the hell are we going to join these together? So I'll just get rid of those. And of course, the answer, you'll be amazed to hear, is Alteryx. So I'll just take you through section by section here. So here's system A, and we'll just do a bit of prep with that, where we give it a source marker, and then we just put a record ID on it. And then again on system B, we do the same, but you'll notice that the really subtle part is the Alpha Bravo Charlie name, Alpha Bravo Charlie name F. So what we've done here, again, this is, we could have done, Ben, to do that with the record ID mastery. You have a starting value, which is important because that then allows you to sort the data out together. So we've got a good old join tool, system A, system B. And then all we're going to try and do first off is we're trying to say, can we compare apples with oranges? So I'm going to join on the client name here. And you'll see going through the join, Alpha and Bravo match off perfectly. Therefore, we just stick them over here. We'll deal with those in a minute. But we have a problem because we have Charlie name on the one side, Charlie name F on the other. So we can't actually do anything in terms of reconciling, which we'll be doing later, because we can't even join them. So I'm a bit of a fraud actually demoing this. Ben is the master of fuzzy matching. However, he helped me get the demo working. So if I run this again, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack those records together. That's where the record ID starts becoming important. And then I use the wonderfully powerful fuzzy matching tool. So this is allowing us, you've got two options. You can either purge, which would get rid of duplicates, or here, merge, we're going to try and join between those system A and system B. And we're saying our record ID is the uniqueness. Again, that's why we stacked the record ID with one with another 1,000 records. And here is where we define how we're able to do the fuzzy matching. So we can choose which field do we want a fuzzy match on. And then you can see we've got custom here. We can set what threshold we want to do. So let's do this. Now, I don't really know what most of these things do, but I know that people do. Ben's used a lot of them on different projects. And really, it's all about what type of data have you got? Is it to do with, is it just the number of digits and letters that need to move around, or what type of pre-processing do you need to do? And then here you can do keywords. You can then, again, Sean will explain exactly how Jara and Levenstein work after I've gone through this. That's fine, don't worry about that. And then you go through here, you can do white lists, black lists, you can match. So effectively, some companies do nothing other than buy Alteryx to manage their mailing lists because it is extremely powerful and you've got full control. I saw a couple of ex-colleagues on here, they would have known that when we used to do this in SQL, it was an absolute nightmare. And like all of the tools in Alteryx, indeed, right? If you want to learn how these things work, then you just right-click on the tool, open example, run the workflow, and then you can work it all out from there. And because you can't change it, you can then make changes and just play with it, get it working how you want it to, so you can output unmatched records as well as matched records. And top tip, get it working how you want, and just copy and paste the tools from here onto your own workflow, and then just change the column names, and then it will all just work. So let me just run that through. So we've got, you'll see here, match score 97 between our record ID 3 and record ID 1002, which was the record ID from the system B. So you can see we've got a match score of 97, which is a good good score. You can have multiple layers of the fuzzy matching in order to be able to run through multiple variations. So in one project, we started with first name, last name, date of birth, telephone number. Then after that, progressively less. But at each point, we gave that match less and less confidence. So what's happened here? Did we get any that didn't match? No, everything matched. I'm saying not is null for the match score. If there was, then again, top tip, use the test tool for managing the data quality such that if anyone starts feeding you bad data, you know about it. And then this is all just a bit of faffing around to just join the records back up again, and then we're going to combine them together. So let's run it again. So you'll see here on this union tool, here's our matched. So we've got 100% match score on that. We've attributed that. And then here we've got 97. So we merged those with the union. So now we've not lost count of the fact that it wasn't an exact match on Charlie name, Charlie name F. We'll come back to that later. And I'll output that to a spreadsheet so that people have got that if they need to go back and fix some source systems. But now we've got the two systems joined up, I'll actually just start going in. And then this is the really elegant part, I would suggest, right? So we know we have two streams of data. This was our A, this is B. And then what we're going to do is transpose those values. So again, the transpose is another great example that you want to just actually know how it works. Particularly handy when you're doing certification exams and you need to remember exactly how crosstab and transpose work. This is a really great example. This is like Excel doing paste special transpose, but better. Because here we can select that we're going to pivot around these four fields and turn these horrible columns from a legacy report into name value pairs. So there we go. So we're using that to turn our data sets into a series of name value pairs. You'll see here. And so what we're then going to do, we've got those on both sides, is that we join them together on every field. Right? So we're joining them on our uniqueness criteria, which is record ID, client ref, etc. And then when it works, it works. And when it doesn't, we get the only records that we couldn't find a match between the two. So what we then do is we put them into another join in order to join them up. And then here we've got, these are our only reconciling differences. We'll share this as a package on our website afterwards. Worth going through and playing with it, because these are all the good ones. These are the ones that didn't match. But it's extremely powerful, because in any other reconciliation, you would end up having to deal with the fact you've got variable numbers of columns and come up with calculated columns or in SQL or in Excel to try and handle that. So again, a really elegant use, and we use this all the time. It's like one of the real patterns for managing reconciling between two data sets. So with that, I would propose that I'm done. And I would, again, thanks very much for joining us. Thanks for all of your support over the years and for the years to come, I hope. And heading back to Ben. Thanks very much.
It's actually me, Dan, but thanks everyone for joining us today. As Dan mentioned, I think I'm probably one of the saddest moments 2020 is not being able to come to the Channel Islands in Q4. It was strange year, but hopefully everybody is all safe and well, spirits high. Yes, massive kudos to the Continuum team for the lovely award. I'm surprised that they haven't actually tried to use it for surfing. I'm pretty sure somebody in the team should be able to make use of it in the way it's intended to be used. And with regards to the Jaro Levenstein, I don't think there's enough time on the call today. All I can tell you is that when you're doing the exact matches behind the scenes, there's a little bit of magic and witchcraft with some of these algorithms where exact matching on, let's say if it was a company name to a company name, an exact match would receive a score of 0. If there's any discrepancies based on the text, depending on how far away until you find a match, you'll then have a score of 1, and then it will just keep adding the score. So the larger the score at the end, the more distance that would be inferred. So what you're looking for is matches of 0, and then you're looking for the types of pattern matches, and then you get the percentage. But again, not here to go into too much on fuzzy matching. Dan and the team are the experts there. Today, though, what I want to do is talk to you all about Alteryx 2020, and in particular 2020.4. So with that, I'm going to share my screen and just run you through kind of where we've actually got to with this. So as of, I believe it was last week, Alteryx 2020 across the full platform is now available to download. Now, there's been throughout this year, whilst it's been a very virtual year, there has been a number of physical changes taken place. So our development team is still there beavering away throughout the year to get to where we are right now. We've seen obviously new platform enhancements, we've seen new UX improvements, and we've even seen some new product functionality by way of the intelligence suite as well. So to run through the kind of, again, rather than reel off everything, I've tried to make this as concise as possible. So Designer 2020.4 that we think you're really going to like. We've taken, so we'll start off with sample data. So we've taken the existing I think there's over 220 odd kind of sample data sets, and we've now made them more easily and readily available within Alteryx itself. So you can now access it by going into the help menu in Designer to help you kickstart your solving. So you can kiss those days goodbye of having to search endlessly online for sample data. So whether you're kind of brand new to Alteryx or whether you're trying to understand how to begin constructing a workflow, you can now peruse our sample data in order to begin your journey. So again, help, sample data set, and then you're there, good to go. Obviously, we do have a global user base as well, and we've also improved the experience for manipulating numerical values in your workflows as well as how you see kind of the numbers displayed within Designer. Now, with international numeric separator support, you can now easily recognize all kinds of delimiters that separate out your numbers, which will save you from kind of extra deep kind of data prep steps upstream in your workflow. In addition, you can then customize the delimiters within numbers that are displayed. So anywhere in Designer, so under the kind of user settings, you can actually do that in user settings by editing the 1000 separator fields. Not a new thing, but our new AMP or Alteryx multi-threaded processing engine, also known as AMP, is been all the rage. And if you've tried it out, you'd know why. Now, again, I say it's not new because it was released in 2020.2, if some of you can remember that far back, or as I like to think of it as, the start of lockdown. But we have also been refining and making improvements to AMP along the way. So AMP is designed to work with larger volumes of data at higher velocity and typically executes workflows more quickly with kind of efficient usage of the machine resources. Now, in 2020.4, there's two new building blocks or tools that can make use of it even further. They are now the download and summarize, which have now been converted to leverage the AMP engine. Now, we're also excited with this release because there is now a version 2.0 of the Azure Data Lake connector. So again, this can be found on the Ultrix public gallery, so it's free to download and use. So this includes the option to connect to the Azure Government Cloud. And again, kind of the Azure Government Cloud provides a dedicated instance of Azure. Again, a little bit for the US market, but of Azure for the US federal, state, and local governments, and is built to provide world-class protection and security. Now, additionally, the Azure Data Lake connector provides connectivity to any customized Azure Data Lake endpoint. Again, if you've got any of your colleagues or counterparts in Asia, one of the endpoints is also the Chinese cloud as well. Now, this updated connector will accommodate those who require a higher level of security in the cloud and enable more flexibility in supporting hybrid, remote, and on-premise connectivity as well. Now, another exciting upgrade with this data connector is that it includes Gen 2 storage type access as well, optimized for leading cloud analytic engines. Now, in 2020.4, we made a big upgrade, and that was the upgrade to Python. So the Python version that comes pre-built and embedded within Ultrix has now been upgraded automatically from 3.6.8 through to Python 3.8.5. Now, this valuable update captures Python's latest security enhancements and fixes as well. As this is a substantial version change, we have written a few great community posts. I do say that one of them was written by myself as well. So we've laid out kind of plans on the community how to make your upgrade as smooth as possible. So if you are joining this session today and you are somebody that has previously used some of the third-party Python tools, whether it's been developed in-house by yourselves or you've downloaded them from the community or the gallery, please do look out for those posts on the community, because they do go through in a little bit more detail on what this upgrade entails and what you might need to do if things aren't working as you intended it to. Okay, so with the Ultrix server, again, kind of if you're an Ultrix customer who uses Ultrix server to automate the mundane tasks, then you are going to be glad to know that we've implemented these next couple of features that are going to save you time and help you become more efficient than ever before. So some of the key highlights here is the ability to assign the use of run as credentials to custom user groups, with the server to grant a group run as permission to run workflows. And this is basically as if they were under a specific user account. If you're unfamiliar with our run as capabilities, again, we have included a very good run through of this on our help documentation, which can be found on help.ultrix.com. Now, in Ultrix 2020.3, we released feature for admins to create custom server managed user groups from the admin view. Now, independently of Active Directory, that is, I should say. Now, in 2020.4, you'll also be able to grant custom user groups specific permissions to a collection. So now you can create as many custom groups of server users as needed and assign each group to the same collection, with each of them having varying permissions to the assets in the collection. Now, this makes managing groups of assets a more streamlined experience and gives members of your organization access to only what they need. And with the Ultrix Analytic Hub, again, not entirely new, but new for this year. It was launched again at the start of lockdown. A lot seemed to happen at the start of lockdown, which was launched in 2020.2, so the Ultrix Analytics Hub. And since then, we have been listening to that small user group with the customer feedback, which we're looking, obviously, to keep expanding on key functionality that will elevate the hub experience. Again, it's not rolled out to our enterprise accounts just yet, but we are slowly getting there and slowly looking to reach parity with features. So once it's there, we can then migrate all of our lovely server customers over to the hub so they can experience that lovely thrill of solving. But with the latest release, you can now gain better visibility into the entire platform and the entire job queue, and actually start to assign priority levels for your jobs or schedules in the queue, so that you can rest assured that the results from your workflow will run and be available in time for your meeting in the next morning. We've also started to add the capabilities for better Windows AD support, so being able to sync Windows Active Directory groups with the hub, so that seamless integration will help to make managing this more enterprise grade. There are also several enhancements around the worker nodes and licensing in particular, which is coming with the 2020.4. So we've worked hard to really improve the licensing setup and experience, so that you can now activate license keys simultaneously and manage worker license keys from the hub. Another kind of key update, again, if you're already a server customer, you've already had these licensing features already in place, but for anybody still interested in kind of looking at where hub is heading, you can now or it now enables the data package licenses to be licensed accordingly. So in order to run and share workflows on the hub that may have used location and business insights, you can now actually license this properly. And the last kind of real point here is that we're thrilled to offer the ability to assign a tag to a particular job or schedule, so that it can then be run on a specific worker node. And again, this is all helping, with the direction of travel of the hub, which will provide better and more enhanced governance, so that your workflows run where you want them to, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud, or to be honest, you pick where you want them to run, and the insights keep on flowing. And the final point from myself today is please, please, please do join the beta program. So if you would have wanted to try some of these 2020.4 features before they were released, you could have done so via the Ultrix beta program. So do sign up to it. There is some real nifty functionality heading your way over the coming releases. So again, if you do look for trialing the latest and greatest, and you want to get it maybe at the same time as Dan and the Continuum team, then do sign up for that. So with that, I would like to say thank you all for listening to me today. Hopefully you haven't missed me too much, but hopefully the new year and a new quarter will bring forward some well-deserved travel. And with that, I will stop sharing my screen and hand over to, I believe it's Sam.
That's right. Yeah, thank you, Sean, so much for that. Let's say I'm just going to push this screen off to here. Sam, we have 10 minutes for your presentation, if it's okay. I'll hand over to you. Thanks so much for joining us here.
Okay, 10 minutes. Right, thank you very much. Sounds like some really interesting stuff that's coming in 2020.4. So thank you for having me, and thanks to Ben, Dan and Jackie for setting this up. I'm hoping you can see my screen now. What I'm going to talk to you about a bit about is the way that we've used Ultrix over the last, most of this year, as everyone's aware, to deal with some of the COVID challenges that we faced. So I'll get straight into it. So I'm Sam Lompriere, and my role is the MEC support lead for health and community services. I've been working for about 5 years in the data world within health. I did 4 years in informatics and a year in my current role. And I wanted to start with this quote, which I'm sure will ring true to a lot of people. I found this the other day. So data can allow us to improve our public health response to the pandemic, but only if we enable data scientists with the right tools to harness those data sets. Now, obviously, that's everybody's going to recognise that. I wanted to put that there because Ultrix is one of those tools that has completely changed the way we've done things. And just by getting access to things like this, it's really helped us push forward what we're doing within health. So just to give a kind of a background to these kind of general challenges that I'm sure lots of people recognize, we had many systems across health. So there's over 50, lots of different ways we can access the data, ranging from direct to some sort of manually submitted data from certain areas. The format of it was varying, the access and the quality was different. And obviously we needed quite a big resource in order to deal with all of those challenges. This is something that we addressed by implementing Alteryx, and we actually implemented it very widely. So by early 2020, we had an extensive Alteryx-based ETL, which was built over a couple of years. And what this did is helped us deal with all of these different data sources, data types, data quality, and trying to standardize it all and build effectively a data mart that we could report from in a consistent and repeatable way. So some of the systems we had API access to, well, that was at least in UAT at that point. And we had a business case approved for implementing Alteryx Server, which was a pilot implementation to demonstrate the capability to provide live data to the organization. Then, as everyone knows, COVID-19 arrived. Now, I'm sure you've all seen images like this. This is an ICU in the UK at the beginning of, or rather in sort of March, April time. We were seeing massive pressures across hospitals across the world. And Jersey was a sort of looking at these other jurisdictions and seeing what could happen. So we were a bit behind the curve, as it were. But just going back to the first point there, COVID-19 really is a data problem. From the sort of visibility and the integration challenges that are required to really get a good view of what's happening and how you can best tackle it. Ranging from just the calculation of the R number, how it's spreading, how we're testing, things like this, and also the effectiveness of lockdown restrictions and how we can gradually reduce those and making sure that we don't see spikes and things like that. So there's been a lot of data across the world, and everyone's been facing similar challenges where integrating that data, sharing that data in an appropriate way has been a challenge, and everyone's been running very quickly. So real-time patient flow data is really critical. So when you're facing bed challenges in hospital, the whole of the system is really important. So understanding where bottlenecks are is really critical. Data sharing and governance, we've got to keep that front of mind. It's very easy in an emergency situation to rush, but it's very important to make sure those new data sources and third-party data are all shared appropriately and with the right controls. So our requirements were, we wanted a single version of the truth. There's a large risk of multiple views of the same data. And obviously, as I'm sure everyone here knows, the risk there is that you end up losing trust in any of it if you have conflicting numbers. So we wanted to make sure we had one source of the truth and one place to go for your data. We needed to increase the frequency of the update of our data sets. So we wanted to get to real time if possible, and where we couldn't, as frequent as we can. Access was another issue. We wanted to make sure that the data was accessible by everyone that needed it and via the most appropriate method. And we wanted to make sure it was safe and compliant and ensure governance is embedded in what we did. So what we actually did, lots of those, I'm sure people will recognize big-ish workflows like that. So firstly, we engaged all the right resources, and this was really interesting during COVID, actually, because it was given, this kind of work was given very high priority, and that really helped us secure the resource we needed from within the organization, so our local IT, and externally as well with people like Continuum. So it was fantastic to really get some priority put on this work, and it meant that we could move very quickly. We very quickly assessed the new and existing data sources we were being asked to report. and looked at the structure of the data, how we could access it, and the sort of the governance around the sharing. Where we had manual data submissions, we built simple submission templates, and that was just using Excel or Microsoft Forms to just have a standard and consistent way to submit that data so that we could use Alteryx to then bring it into our reporting infrastructure. So the Alteryx workflows, we built them to pick up any manually submitted data, call APIs where we had direct connections into systems, to standardize and cleanse, and then to push the data to our visualization layer, to Power BI, and also to SQL Server database as well. We also then scheduled many of those workflows to run with Alteryx Server to make sure we've got that recency of the data, and we were updating a number of data sets up to every minute. We then built Power BI reports and dashboards to visualize that data, and made that available to people via Power BI licenses, which was great because it meant it was available in your pocket effectively. So onto the outputs. So this is just a selection of the outputs of that work. So we had a COVID reporting suite where we had a number of live dashboards looking at things like hospital status, patient flow, capacity in the system, testing, and then a more detailed situation report, which was updating multiple times daily. So this is a screenshot from that SITREP report. So this brought together data from inside the hospital, outside the hospital, important things during COVID like oxygen and PPE, testing and bed capacity. So all really relevant stuff in one place. Just a quick screenshot of an example of the bed capacity page there. We also produce the data that, or around the activity, sorry. We query the application that is the Jersey COVID app that's I'm sure everyone here recognizes. So we've got an API connection directly to that data set, and we produce a dashboard to monitor the activity on the app, so how many alerts we're seeing and things like that. So that's been really useful. We've also created, this is using SSRS actually, a series of scorecard type reports for use operationally throughout hospital. And this is building, this is sort of in pilot stage at the moment, but it's all using this underlying infrastructure that we've built using Alteryx. So there's live reporting in here, there's daily reports, there's monthly reports, and all of this is driven by the many, many hundreds of workflows that we've got running behind the scenes on a regular basis. And obviously we're using Alteryx Server. This is the server interface. That's been fundamental in us being able to manage this volume. You're able to run a lot of workflows just by manually running them, obviously, but once you want to get towards live, then obviously that's not practical. So server's been really important to us. And that's those. So got half a minute left. What did we learn? So with the right priority and support, these solutions can be built really quickly. Tools like Alteryx Designer and Server can really help to bridge the gaps in your existing infrastructure and can enable significant benefits. When data and IT teams work closely together, everyone wins. It's been great to work really closely with our local IT teams, and there's been a lot of enthusiasm and passion in trying to get things working as quickly as possible in such an important time. And I just want to say there is another way. So this iterative design process that we've been forced to go down during COVID, just because of the timescales involved, with appropriate understanding and controls, this approach can continue. And it means that we produce things very quickly. And finally, just want to say, COVID was a time where everyone was working together really well, and this list here is an example of how many people were involved in putting this information or putting this content together, and it's just a huge team effort. And when people work together like this, it's really impressive to see what you can do. And I'm hoping that one of the learnings we get after COVID is the fact that this close collaboration can yield some fantastic results. And I think that's me.
Absolutely phenomenal, Sam. Thank you so much indeed for spending the time to put together that presentation and sharing your insights. I must say we're so proud to help someone as talented yourself. You make use of Alteryx to come up with all those solutions to help make our island safer. So thank you so much for your time you've been spending on those solutions, of course, sharing those ideas with us today. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks.
Really appreciate that. All right. moving on, we've got about 10 minutes left. Right, so we've got now moving on to the 5-minute mastery session. Now, I've just been told by Chris that apparently the poll wasn't quite up for the entire session. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push the poll back to the audience. Now, if we can spend maybe just a couple of minutes just choosing whether you'd like to see a 5-minute mastery session on a dynamic rename tool or a block until done. Both are great tools in their own rights. Plenty to learn from both. But if you can cast your votes now, we'll take a look at the results in just about 20 or 30 seconds or so. All right, let's take a peek at how we're doing on the results. And it comes in as a block until done. It seems to be taking the lead at the moment. Nice. All right. So not to say that we shan't take a look at the dynamic rename. Maybe we'll pop that in the poll for 2021.1 user group. But without further ado, let's take a look at block until done. Great tool. OK, let's see. I have to share my screen. Bear with me one moment, guys. Get that up for you. Okay, here we go. All right, so hopefully you can see up on my screen right now my Ultrix Designer window. Just spent a little bit of time prior to the session coming up with this little demo here. The idea is, as I said at the start of the presentation, that we all go away from the users group learning how to use at least one of the Ultrix tools a little bit better. So today, we're going to be taking a look at the block until done tool. It's part of the developer category. Now, just for you guys who may be getting started with Ultrix, typically you're not going to see all of these tool categories at the top of your toolbar. If you're not seeing all of the tool categories that I've got here, just make sure you get this little plus to click at the top right of your screen and then configure the tool palette to show all. You may only just have the getting started tools visible there. Once you've selected all, then you should have the developer category, and you can see the block until done tool sits right here, as does the dynamic rename as well. All right, get into it. There's plenty of ways in which you can use the block until done tool. I've just illustrated 3 such ways here, and it's quite a common problem I see with a lot of clients who we're helping out. That they'd quite like to write to 2 different worksheets within the same workbook, but they're coming across this problem. If I get this workflow run, this is going to illustrate what that looks like. Probably looks a little bit familiar. I've got this data set here where I'm trying to write in some data into an Out1 XLS workbook, into sheet 1 and also to sheet 2. Seems like I can write to sheet 1 quite nice and easily, but when I'm trying to write to sheet 2, I'm able to open a file for write. It's already being used for another process. And how the hell can we get past this? Some people have tried to split out their output data tools to various different workflows and things like that. But what we can do, so I pop open my block solution now. Let's start putting it down there. Then what we're going to do is we're going to use this block until done tool to make sure that we write all the data to sheet 1. And then once that's finished writing, we'll write all the data to sheet 2. So if we give this a run now, we should see that we don't get any issues with that. So the way the block until done tool works is it's going to wait until all of the records get to this input here. And once all of the records have reached this input, we'll start outputting data to output number 1. Once it's finished all this sort of processing from output number 1, then and only then does it start to push records through output number 2 and then subsequently output number 3. So we can kind of add on extra sort of worksheets here for sort of output number 3. And if you want to expand that a little bit more, then of course you can actually kind of sort of link up multiple block until done's tool to one another as well, like so. Next thing we can do with the block until done tool is we can actually even output a file and then re-input the same file in the same workflow. So if I get this workflow run, I'm just going to read in here this customer's CSV file. You guys probably seen this a little bit before in some of the Ultrix demonstrations that we were doing. But if I push this in here, I'm going to put, of course, all the data is going to be waiting until it's read in from that file until it gets to the input of the block until done. Then that data is coming out that output number 1, and I'm going to push it back to the customers.csv file. Then, only then, when the data has been written to that file and the file has been closed, do actually the data starts coming out of output number 2. And what I'm doing here is I'm just on this input, I've just selected the option here in the input data tool, output file name as a field, making sure you got that full path coming on through here as the file name, as you can see in the results grid. Now, once the file's been written from output number 1, the data is going to come out output number 2, and I'm just using this dynamic input tool and say, hey, read in the file name and then change the entire file path of the input data tool so that when we make changes to a file, we can read in those changes within the same workflow as well. That can really, really useful in some scenarios. And I haven't got a bit of a demonstration for this one here, but I'd have put a comment here as well that you can use the block until done tool quite intuitively to hold certain processes in the workflow that may impact sort of memory intensive actions. So say, for example, if you're outputting to a particular file and you don't want to output to maybe 2 server tables at the same time, just so you don't sort of increase the load on some of your servers or source systems. And you can make sure the output to 1 table first, wait until that processing is finished, and then output to subsequent tables, just to reduce that burden on any of the servers as well. So that's the ways that I've been using block until done myself. But of course, if you want to find out a little bit more about the tool, you can give it a click here in the developer category. Go ahead and open up the example, and you can see a variety of different ways that you can use the block until done tool as well. And of course, there's the Ultrix community as well. So there's plenty of people posting on the forums there, asking about how they can use block until done. And typically lots of people post in their responses some attached workflows, which you can open up in your own designer, start running, and get to learn the tool a little bit more as well. So hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea of how to use that tool. And of course, if you do have any questions, then head on over to Ultrix community or do get in touch. We'll be happy to help you out. All right, with that being concluded, I'm going to move on now to the Q&A slides. You should see on your screen, we've got a few minutes left of this session. You should see on your screen there's a Q&A button just at the bottom. If you give that a click, we're going to have the Q&A text box come on up. Please do feel free to fire us any questions you've got. We're going to stay on here for the next sort of 5-10 minutes or so just to answer any question you've got. But should you not have any questions, I'd just like to thank you once again for spending your time with us this afternoon. It really has been a pleasure to demonstrate all this content to you. And again, thank you for our speakers, for Dan and Sean, and especially Sam, for coming on here and sharing those insights with us. Thank you once again to all the speakers. So if anyone's got any questions, please do fire away in the Q&A, and we'll make sure we get some answers for you. So just whilst we're waiting for the Q&A to come on in, Sam, I wondered if there's what's next for you on Ultrix? You've got any sort of new projects in mind, anything like that?
So what we really want to do with it next is look forward. So looking at forecasting and predicting. We've got a really good base now. We've got a lot of data that we can use. We're doing some really cool stuff with data quality, and we really want to start looking at things like how many people are about to walk through the hospital doors, and how that impacts the whole of the flow through the system. As I mentioned before, bottlenecks are a really key part when you're looking at this kind of system, and I'm sure everyone has seen in the news about ambulances queuing at the front door. Now often that's caused by something further down the line, so having a future looking view of what is likely to happen next and the impact that has on the flow can really drive smart operational decisions.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Yeah, and we're certainly looking forward to helping you guys out that as well. Maybe we'll get you back later on in the year. We can show you some of those cool predictive flows as well.
Absolutely.
All right. Chris, so you're still on the line. Can you see as to whether we've got any Q&A questions coming on in? Just seeing a question here from Sean. Do we think the next user group will be face-to-face? Well, I certainly hope so. But of course, we'll have to see the sort of scenario we're in when it comes to sort of Easter time next year. But got my fingers crossed. It'd be wonderful to see you guys in person.
Looks like that was the last question.
All right. Well, if there's no questions, we'll sign on off. Again, big thank you for everyone to join in. Hope you've enjoyed it. Please do give us any feedback you may have. And of course, do remember, if you'd like to be a part of the next user group, please do get in contact with inquiries@continuum.je, and we'll make sure you're looped in. All right. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day, and happy Ultrexing. Thank you. Bye-bye.